Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the 2021 New Year, New Outlook Lunch and Learn. I'm Ryan Lejbak, the CEO at Zoo. And before we introduce the panel for the Lunch and Learn today, I want to tell you a little bit about our company. Zoo is a firm that helps organizations navigate the complex world of technology by helping them design and develop digital assets like web systems and websites, dashboards, mobile applications, and more. This is our team of 35 people in our Saskatoon headquarters. Digital strategists, consultants, designers, developers, and IT experts. We work together to offer a full suite of digital services. We break our services really into three areas: innovate, build, and adapt. And for us, innovate is helping mature companies think young again through problem definition, ideation, and prototyping, leveraging such techniques as user-centered design and design thinking. And build, this is our bread and butter, designing, developing, and deploying custom digital solutions. And finally, adapt. We help organizations keep their current assets relevant, bulletproof, and ready for the future through change management, support, optimization, and hosting. The inspiration behind hosting this Lunch and Learn really is our partners. We work with many Saskatchewan organizations, and our company has been rooted in the province since the beginning. In fact, 80% of our employees are graduates from the University of Saskatchewan. So given that, Saskatchewan business success means Zoo success. And now I want to introduce our panel. And maybe I'll get the panel members. You guys can unleash your video and microphones now, so we can get you in here in a second. But we've got Keith Moen, who's the director for the North Saskatoon Business Association, the CEO of the Saskatchewan Chamber of Commerce, Steve McLellan, and the executive director of the Estevan Chamber of Commerce and the vice president of the Saskatchewan Economic Development Alliance, Jackie Wall. So I'd like to say hi to all of you guys and thank you all for joining us today. We've done some pre-work on this. One of the things I wanted to do before we get started, some people are still filing in, is I wanted to throw up a survey question for our for the people visiting or watching the webinar today. So this is something that the users that everybody watching can fill out, and I'm just going to get that posted right now. And then we'll show the results in a couple of seconds here. So how has your business or organization fared in comparison to 2019? So you can answer better, about the same, or worse. So just give everybody a second or a moment or two who's on the call right now to fill it out, and then we can kind of comment, and maybe Steve, Jackie, and Keith, you guys can maybe talk about what some of your members are hearing once you hear the results. And I think that's probably good. Right now, there we go. So when we kind of look at the number, the responses, it's kind of split down the middle, a third, a third, a third. How's your business or organization fared? Better, about the same, or worse? 35%, 29%, or 35%. So it's basically a third for each. So maybe I'll just start with Keith, because you have your microphone turned on. Is that something that you've kind of heard from your members, or are NSBA members doing as well, or worse than they were last year?
Yeah, no, it's a mixture for sure, Ryan. I would say that I'm actually a little bit surprised by the results in that it is so equally split, because I would suggest that our members are not going to be representative of those survey results, because I think that there's a lot more pain in the marketplace than what others are perhaps experiencing. But I do think that there are those that are absolutely benefiting from this COVID and pandemic situation, and it doesn't surprise me, because obviously I shouldn't say obviously, but presumably your group here would be more dialed into the e-commerce side of things, and I think that would be an area that would be absolutely beneficial and benefiting from the circumstances out there. But industry-wise, business to business, I think people have been able to manage decently well, but certainly the sectors that are hurting the most are in the hospitality, tourism, those types of industries that are really feeling the pain. So yeah, but it's across the board, and I'm pleased to see from those results that things are actually not too bad. So that's good.
And Jackie, I saw you nodding there. What's your take on that?
Yeah, I think it is quite varied. We have very mixed responses from our members. Obviously, hospitality. Right now, we're living in a little bit of a southeast bubble. We have very low incidence, so everyone's maintaining the masks and the physical distancing, and the restaurants have really pivoted to put up their screens and put their protocols in place. But Overall, yeah, it's a real mix. And I agree with the e-commerce. Those businesses that had a strong online presence were able to shift very quickly to serve their clients. And I think it really showed that those businesses that were able to adapt quickly were able to, to remain stronger throughout this, and they will remain stronger moving into the next year.
And Steve?
I would agree. The strong balance sheet going into this, as always, is a good thing, and it's sustained many companies. Certainly, the ability to adapt. Pivot is an overused word, but it's a reality. And those companies that had the digital capacity, had a strong balance sheet, have done quite well in most sectors. Now, if you're a restaurant, it's still a very difficult time for many. But the reality of it is that some businesses have done very well. They've been either unaffected by the changes of COVID and the lockdowns, or they've found ways to actually accelerate what they've done. And in the typical Saskatchewan style, it's very difficult for those folks to stand on a little bit of a soapbox and say, look at how good we're doing, because others go, well, we're not doing that good. And I get that. But that was exactly the same mentality and exactly the same economic situation in 2018, 2019, 1905. So we're shy. We don't stand on the mountaintops and scream how good we are. That's why organizations like the three of ours and others are in charge of celebrating those good things and those great businesses. But the reality of it is some businesses have done well. We need that to happen to keep the other ones moving forward at a time when it makes sense for them to do that.
Awesome. I just want to say, if anybody has any questions they want to ask the panelists, you can certainly write the questions in the little Q&A button down there, and we'll get to the questions a little bit later on. But if they're relevant to the topic we're on right now, we'll try to get them in right away. So just punch in on the Q&A, or try not to use the chat. You can use a chat to chat, but use the Q&A for the questions. But let's get right into things now with COVID-19, and there's new restrictions that are actually start today. From the provincial government, and with more coming for retailers next week. So what are your members saying about these new restrictions, and what's your sense of what's going on in the province? We'll kind of go same order, I guess, for this one, Keith, then Jackie, then Steve.
Okay, sure. Thanks, Ryan. Well, with any new development, as these phases come on and regulations change, there's always a certain amount of uncertainty. It's just a given, human nature. There's worry, there's just concern about what's to come, and but having said that, to Steve's point about the resiliency and so forth, we appreciate the ability to stay open. We appreciate the fact that the government is very adamant about keeping the economy rolling and going, and that's critical, because there is certainly the pandemic is paramount, but there also needs to be recognition that there are other factors that need to be taken into account when it comes to the challenges that we're facing as a society. So we also appreciate with the regulations such that they are, and the government showing that there's an ability for us to continue with commerce, that there's a recognition that businesses are safe and that they're not the epicenters of community transmission, and that's a critical point as well, because with the fear that's out there, it's really important that people understand that businesses are doing everything that they can to ensure that they have a safe environment for their customers to come into. And I guess the other piece, just my last one before turning it over to Jackie, is just it's a challenging time, because the first shutdown certainly led to some challenging times and economic hardships for many businesses. We've already seen some closures, and there will be more for certain. But it's just appreciated that we can stay open and continue to do what we can do. So that's where I would leave it for now.
Yeah, I wouldn't have much more to add to that. I really appreciate the local businesses here, the investment that they've put into staff training, the extra cleaning, the signs across their building, and, adjusting their space in order to accommodate physical distancing. So I think that those capital expenditures needed to be recognized. And as you were saying, the transmission and the spread of COVID doesn't seem to be happening in a business setting. So I think that was encouraging for business owners. Absolutely.
You're on mute there, Steve.
$2, first time. Sorry, Ryan. It's important to remember that business people when they get up in the morning, their parents, their spouses, their family members first. So the first hour, if you will, of their day. So they have to deal with all that. They watch the news like everybody else, and they go, well, what a tragedy. There's more people at that senior center, or the numbers are going up, and so on. And then they wear all of that in their backpack with them when they go to work. And then when they get to work, they have to do the things that Jackie just referenced about modifying their workspace and so on, and the things that Keith talked about, the making sure their customers are safe and their staff are safe, and all of that weighs down on people again, and that's before they go to work. But it's the same with all of us. So I think it's been a very difficult time. I think the sentiment across the board is we are all really, really, really ready for Christmas and a bit of a break, whatever that means in terms of days off. But we're also cognizant that those people, men, women, young and old, across the province, all sectors, are respecting the rules. The business people are following them. And the comment I hear often at work and away from work is, I'm glad I'm not the one that had to make all those decisions. So full credit to the Premier and the medical health officer, those people who have to make those calls. So, but people are ready for a break, but glad we're moving moving forward together, rather.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. There's a lot of tough decisions that many people have had to make, in order to juggle the economy and people's health. We're going to split this up, the next kind of section, into, we're going to talk a little bit later on about business to business, but right now, let's just talk a little about business to consumer. So I'm thinking more of the retail outlets. And Jackie and Keith, I'll ask you this question. Like, if you're a retailer in Saskatchewan right now, what are some things you can do over the next week to prepare for these new restrictions that are going to be coming in? Around Christmas time, or the restrictions that are on right now. So what are some things that the retailers can be doing?
I think a great place to start is customer communication. You really have to reinforce your hours of operation, your limitations as far as how many people can be maybe within your building, that perhaps you offer delivery service, or call us, we can pick up, push your website, your e-commerce, and just let customers know all the availability of your products and services right now, so that they're aware of what you provide, and maybe even a reminder of some of the products and services that you do have. I was a small business owner for a long time, and you kind of get into that mindset where you assume people know what you have to offer. But this is a great time to not only remind them of when you have that and how you have that to offer, but also what you have to offer. So that's where I would start, is customer communications on the whole gambit. Even go old school and pick up the phone. There's all the online, which is great. There's the emails that are great, but there's nothing like that phone call to those core customers that can actually help you to also spread your word, right? Word of mouth is huge in small communities across this province.
Keith?
Yeah, for sure. I agree with everything that Jackie just said. I guess the one thing when I'm a consumer and I'm walking into a place of business, the one thing that I get assurance from, well, two things actually, and it speaks to Jackie's point about the communication piece, is when there's, visible signage right at the doorway when you walk in, and you notice that there's an obvious effort to keep the place clean and sanitized. When I see somebody that's employed there that's scrubbing something down, that just gives me, that confidence, peace of mind that I'm in a place that really takes this seriously. So I think that's something that, obviously it needs to be done in terms of the regulations, but if you can be, make it a visual, like do it as much for the customer's confidence as you are for the actual hygienic means to it, over sanitize, in other words, in certain areas, provide, markings on the floors and these sorts of things in terms of physical space and distancing. Sanitizers, I love seeing, all kinds of sanitizer dispensers around. Touchless, whatever it is, whether it's the sanitizers or the point of purchase, that's critical as well. Masks, I like, there are some stores that are offering masks, or places that you walk in and they have someone there either handing you a mask, or there's a box there for your choosing. And just I guess the other piece that I wanted to touch on that maybe Jackie referenced in terms of the capacity, I just want to emphasize too that there might be a misunderstanding, because I've talked to a few business owners that think that it's going to be a drastic change for them. And in fact, when you talk about a 50% reduction of the fire code capacity, it's, you know, for small boutique stores, like they would love to be in a position where they have 50% of their fire code capacity. You know, that would mean like it's a Christmas rush for them, because quite frankly, like it's not that busy in a lot of these places. And so just, you know, it could be a business as usual scenario for a lot of people. And so again, just, you know, mitigating that fear factor and communicating with the actual scenarios is a good piece, back to Jackie's communication.
So when you look at customers, and Keith, you were kind of talking about your experience as a customer and going into a store and liking to see all the cleaning and sanitizing that's going on. When you look at customers now, what have their expectations changed? Like, what are the expectations that customers have when they go into a local retail outlet? Maybe I'll start with Steve and then go to Keith after that.
Well, they certainly want to walk in the door and right away know that these people, this business is serious about the customers' health. So two quick stories, two stores yesterday, both grocery stores. One of them had a guy at the front door with the sanitizer, but the little counter he's working off of looked sloppy, paper towel laying there, and a rubber glove laying on the floor in front of him. The other store you walk into, there's a guy there with full mask on. He's wiping a cart down, has it like the race cars side by side, ready to go. He said, "Please take this cart and go on in." All clean front end. When I left the first store, that glove is still on the floor. And it tells me that guy doesn't care enough. It's virtue signaling to an extent that they're making it safe for me, therefore their staff, therefore I can touch their products. No, I don't have that comfort. So that's the first thing. People walk in. The other thing that people want generally is make it easy for me. I do not want to spend a whole bunch of time in your store. I do not want to have to look for things. I do not want to have to walk around stuff on the aisles, retail or service counters. I want people there who know what they need to, what I need to know soon. I want to make it easy. And this is the other thing that goes to a point Jackie referenced earlier. I want to make it as easy for me, and as a customer, it's all about me. I want to make it as easy for me in your store as it is if I go home and do it on my laptop and order it. So I don't care what the product or the service is, I want it easy. So I want it to be safe when I walk in. I want you to give me the impression you know what we're doing. Keith's point about the sign and the rules are adhered to, and it's clean and it's pristine. Cleanliness in the retail and the service sector is bigger than ever before, always was important. Now it's even bigger. Show me that you care. Show me that you have what I need. Show me that I can spend money with you and get out and I'm happy.
Jackie, and what have you been hearing that customers want in their retail outlets?
Well, I think Steve absolutely summarized it really well. I think, though, you are hearing a lot more people talk about e-commerce, and I think there has been a little misconception as far as e-commerce goes. A lot of businesses used to say, "Oh, I don't need to get into e-commerce. I service my local area, and that's it. I don't need to attract someone, a shopper from New York or Calgary or wherever." They're kind of missing the boat. Consumers are making, 68% of them go online now, or is it already up to 80% that go online and research their product prior to? And so I think that there's a huge shift, and it will continue to be so, that they want to be able to shop online or at least browse online for local products and local services. They'll still most likely go into that store, but when they go in there, they know exactly what they want and they know where to get it. And so you're attracting local customers by being online, whether it's e-commerce, social media, or any of the online platforms. Google Business, I'll give you a great example there. Early in the pandemic, I went on Google and I Googled a local retail, and it said they were closed for COVID. And I thought, that's strange. I'm sure I drove by and saw that they were open. So I called them, and sure enough, they were open. So I said, you really got to get on your Google Business. It says that you're closed right now. And so you have to be aware that people are going online first, even when they're shopping local. So I think that is something that customers are becoming very accustomed to. And it's a shift that we have to have in our mindset.
Yeah, and that's just, as we were talking about this when we were prepping for this a couple of days ago, which kind of leads into the next thing is like, how can small businesses take advantage of the pandemic? Like, what can retailers be doing during these times to increase their customer base and increase their revenue. And you kind of talked about the online, e-commerce, social media presence, but maybe I'll ask Steve and then Keith, what are things that small businesses and retailers can be doing during this pandemic to increase whatever the customers or their revenue or their reach, those types of things?
Well, I'd go right back to the basics, pre-pandemic. Make sure your customers know you're open. Make sure your customers know all those things that you have to sell. Because if you're a pizza shop, people don't order ribs because they don't know you have them. If you're a clothing store, they don't know you have boots, but you do. So you've got to act like you're open, and that means nowadays having a social media presence that's amazing. And you can get a company like Zoo, you can get all kinds of skills to do it. As Jackie said earlier, we'll talk more later. If you're not heavily present in the social media world, you're going to be dead for all kinds of other reasons anyway. So that's one thing. Also, those customers that you have now, make darn sure that when they leave, they're happy as can be, and they also tell two friends because they're on social media. Little things like even Best Buy here in Regina had a lineup the other day. I think it would be a cool thing, instead of driving by and saying they have a lineup, to drive by and say they had a lineup and they were serving coffee to those people in little cups. Isn't that cool? That's a story that I say when I talk to my friends about where they're going to go. And the other scenario is don't act like woe is me. These are rules that put in place for people's savings, for people's health. So we need to start the conversation, and the dialogue has got to be, good news, we've got this cleaning supplies here at the front door. Great news, we have less people in the store than normal. And for you, our customer, job number one is you, our customer. We're going to make it a great experience for you. Yeah, there's a pandemic and we're conscious of that. But for this few moments, you are the idol of the whole damn band, is a great line out of a country song. And that's what retailers need to do. Act like you're open, and people will believe you are.
Keith, do you have anything to add to that?
Well, not a lot, because Steve nailed it. Just reiterating that the best advertising is word of mouth, and social media just provides that opportunity to expand that word of mouth that is out there. You get something that's going viral locally, and you get some influencers that are involved with it, and it's amazing what can happen. And if you don't understand what it is, like, there's actually, companies that specialize now in training and how to work your social media planning and so forth. And so, educate yourself on those opportunities. And, there's even training funding provided now as well for that type of training. So, back to the customer service piece, look to expand your competitive advantages, things like, I think Steve maybe touched on, like, in terms of the customer service, like free alterations for people that come around, and having a return policy. And, like, the nice thing about local, and you're dependable, you're reliable, you're there. Amazon, I don't know how many stories I've heard about people tracking their shipment and they don't know if it's going to arrive on time. It's like, well, go to your local store because it's already there. You don't have to wait for something to arrive. It's there. So just be like Steve said, be there and be reliable and be ready for business. And give that great impression, and good things will happen.
Cool. That it's interesting to see how local businesses have adapted during the pandemic. With things like store hours and personalized shopping times, and limiting the number of people in store. Like, I love what you guys said about feeling safe just by seeing the hand sanitizer at the front door. That gives me a sense of confidence. But why don't we kind of switch gears a little bit and look at more of the business to business organizations, because I know that there's a lot of people on here who are selling to other businesses and stuff. So when we look at business to business organizations, like, what has changed for them during the pandemic? Maybe I'll just ask Jackie and Keith, like, what's changed for B2B companies?
Well, a lot of the same things as retail companies and hospitality, but I would say we need to talk about the huge trend of the work from home and the new digital reality. And I think those have been more prominent within business to business. So we're dealing with a whole different issues now. Cybersecurity, I just saw that come up with people working from home, and security as far as your cybersecurity, and the shift of these new working conditions on your capital expenditures and your operating expenditures. So I think business to business, we still have to, maintain the basics. It comes down to customer service and follow-up and communication. But the shift to work from home, I think that has happened more for business to business, obviously, than the retail and hospitality, where you need the frontline staff. Keith?
Yeah, no, they're great points, Jackie, and absolutely with that. Like I know people that have not left their home basically since March, mid-March, and like that's challenging, you know, at the best of times. But certainly, you get into the mental health aspects, and then that brings about a whole new, different set of dynamics. So it's something that, you know, people that are in those working from home environments, and I think like there was talk earlier on about this being a real trend, and that's going to be an ongoing thing, and the way of the future. And I think that kind of talk, this is just my own personal observation, is a little bit overhyped. I think that maybe was good for a little while, but you know, 10 months into this thing, I myself, and I found myself originally to be far more productive at home because I wasn't, you know, distracted by the other things that come up in a day-to-day work environment. And so at the start, it was far more productive for me there. Now it's far more productive for me to be here at the office because our team is here and we're able to communicate far more effectively and get things done. But back to, you know, other things that are going on that I've seen and what I've heard, like supply chains being challenged in terms of, you know, inventory bottlenecks. You can't get the product that you need, and you need that one thing to build the next, you know, step of whatever stage of production it is. You know, but there's pricing pressures now that have been created by the supply demand inequity that's out there. And businesses are being pressured of doing more with even less. And that was a case in point before the pandemic, but now it's even more accentuated, I would say. But the other side, but the flip side of that is, interestingly, people's expectations have changed. You know, what used to be like a huge deal, now people just kind of shrug it off as, oh, well, it's the pandemic, there's nothing I can do about it. And that would have never happened in a B2B environment before. And now it's just kind of, you know, okay, well, I guess that's understandable. And then so that's just a different reality. And I don't know if that'll be a long-term thing, but it's kind of nice to see those pressures that are just being understood now. So that's what I'd, you know, close off, I think.
Yeah, and I think, you know, like for me personally, working from home was great in March and April, May kind of thing. You know, as you said, Keith, like you're more productive. But you know, as summer wore on, it was a little bit different because people got to go outside and experience different things. So productivity either way, you know, in at work or at home was kind of the same. But as we head into the fall, and you know, in Saskatchewan, we had such a nice fall and early winter. I guess it's not technically winter yet. But it was warm out, so people still got a chance to get outside. And so if you're working from home, you weren't staring at the same walls all the time. But this last week or so just seems like winter just really hit us, even though it was only like -20. But everybody just seemed to just go, oh man, this is gonna be a long winter. We all knew it was coming, but it didn't seem to happen until Sunday. And then it just one day, the long winter just arrived. So I think we are gonna see some shifts there. And it is interesting that a lot of companies that said, we're gonna let all our employees work from home forever, you know, 8 months later saying, well, maybe not all the time. You got to come in 2 or 3 days a week, or maybe the people in this city have to come in and so on. So we have seen a change in that. It's also interesting to me how some companies were caught kind of flat-footed, you know, from a digital perspective, working from home. So, you know, lots of people who work in offices, you know, and for service industries, you might have computers or laptops or whatever. But when, you know, I remember the day that we said, okay, we're going to start working from home at Zoo, you know, everyone took their laptops home, and we're an IT company. So we were pretty successful. It was a Monday afternoon. We sent everybody home Tuesday morning. We're kind of all working like nothing. We didn't miss a beat. But some people we talked to and some clients and some other businesses, you know, like people went home, they're like, oh, I don't have internet access at home, or, you know, I don't have a cell phone, you know, so things that just couldn't happen. And it's taken a long time. And, you know, we've used this word digital transformation for, I don't know, maybe 4 or 5 years at Zoo. But now the rest of the world's using it. And, you know, that's probably a good thing for our business, that, you know, people are starting to see what that digital transformation is, and how companies can change and what they can be doing, which kind of leads to the next question is, when you look at a business to business firm, or maybe I'll ask this to Keith and Steve, like what can B2B companies be doing differently? Like what things that, similar to what we just asked for B2C companies, but what can companies be doing to expand their revenue, increase their business, you know, taking advantage of the resources and the expertise we have here in Saskatchewan? What can we be doing to make more money and keep it in the province? Steve?
Well, that's a good question. And I note that Stephanie Young's on the phone, and she's taught thousands of entrepreneurs. So everybody has to act like an entrepreneur. And she probably taught this lesson maybe to me, although I didn't have the privilege of taking a class from her. But here's the deal. When you go to your customers now, the first question is, are we looking after everything that you think we should be selling you? Yes. All right. What else do you buy that we don't sell you? Or what else are you having trouble finding? And the reality of it is, in Saskatoon, in Rosetown, and Carlisle, we've got great entrepreneurs that started selling pizza boxes. Then their customers had trouble finding cheese. So now they sell cheese and pizza boxes. And whatever the sector is you're in, to ask those people, what are your pinch points? What can we do to help you with? Because as Keith said, we're across town. We're not across the country. So you have supply chain challenges, or when you're happy that we're doing exactly what you ask us to do, but what else could we do? And you don't think of us, again, back to the points we made earlier, you don't think of us as the cheese company because you only buy boxes from us. Maybe we could start to sell cheese too, or pepperoni, or it's desk chairs, or it's something else that you need, we could do. That's the question. Ask what else we can do for you, and don't put us in that box that you know us as the pizza box folks. I think that's the first thing. The other thing I'd suggest is go see who's winning. There are some companies, some of them, 9 Mile Legacy Brewing is a good company, doing great stuff. They pivoted real fast, went to the canning, all that kind of stuff. Figure out who's winning and how you can work with them to make it happen. And again, it might be that you don't do anything that a company like 9 Mile or Zoo can buy from you, but you can buy from them perhaps, and find those companies that are doing well. Sticking with the winners is always a good idea, and that's a good business to business philosophy.
Keith?
Yeah, I couldn't agree more with Steve as far as just looking to leverage what your strengths are, and looking to expand markets into global, even global, or more regional opportunities that may be around, just based upon what those strengths and leverages are. So I would again just reiterate that, and maybe just see if Jackie has anything to say on this too. I think she was going to be a speaker to this one too.
No, I would reiterate what Steve had to say, but I would also take a look at maybe aligning with some companies and some businesses that you normally wouldn't align with to expand your customer base. I know we've been kind of encouraging our businesses in Estevan to do that. We're one of the coal transition communities, so we've kind of been pivoting, sorry to use that word again, over the last couple of years, because we knew there was going to be a huge shift in our economy here in Estevan. So we started encouraging people to take a look at how they could align with different businesses. So we have 2 restaurants here where you would consider restaurants to be competitors. They've got together and they've put together this bike and brew, and they have local bikers come out, like pedal bikers, and they go pedaling, and then after they all go to either the one restaurant or the other restaurant for a drink and some appies, and they are within the same industry, but yet they've aligned. We have the local oil change company partnering with the fitness company, and on their oil change, they have a ladies' day or a special day to get the women customers in, and the yoga place provides them with gift certificates and gift cards. So they're expanding their customer base in really unique ways. And I really love to see those innovations. People always assume innovation is techno or it's new equipment, but innovation really is ideas. Innovative ideas will really take you far, and they don't have to cost you a lot of money. That's the great thing.
I love that story. And you had another story about the bakery. Maybe you could say that one too, because I just thought that was pretty interesting when we were talking about it last week.
Yeah, we were talking about, well, consumer leakage, of course, we all have that as top priority, and we were looking at that about 1.5 years ago, and local procurement. And we do not have a traditional bakery within Estevan. A lot of our baked goods, breads and buns comes from Carlisle, which is about an hour away. And there were several restaurant people in the room, and I said, if you all got together and you decided you were going to take a look at what you order every week, and you went to a local, there's quite a few small bakeries that are popping up, like home-based, and you went to one of them and say, look, we can guarantee you 50 dozen buns a week. Let's get you into a commercial space. So I think that there's really great innovation, especially for small communities in that way. What are you going outside of your community to procure? And is there enough demand within your community that you could get an entrepreneur up and running and starting a new business to service locally?
Steve, we were talking, earlier this week about, what are some of the skills that people in Saskatchewan have, and how we can sell those around the world. And maybe Keith, I think we were talking about this too, but the idea of selling some of our knowledge and expertise and some of like logistics and things we've learned, like I think we use the example of Canpotex, where we ship fertilizer around the world, but we've also become logistics experts, but we're not really selling that kind of logistics type stuff. Maybe you could just talk about how businesses could maybe use some of the services, like some of the stuff that they do as a service to sell.
Well, it goes back to the entrepreneurial mindset to say, what do we do and we do well? Well, we, historically, and this is the history of Saskatchewan, we learned how to grow wheat enough to feed ourselves and then to feed our neighbors and then to ship out. And then we grew or manufactured agricultural equipment to suit our own needs, then our neighbors, then we shipped it out. So that's the same thing with expertise, although we're not doing it to the extent that we should. So that's it. I go back to the entrepreneurial mindset again that says, listen, what do we do well? Let's package it and let's put it online or make it available to the world. And that means that you have to have a social media or a digital presence, as Jackie said, that said, we have expertise in this. So Canpotex is a good example. There would be good thought that Canpotex could have a division where their expertise is sold. You can buy potash from us, but you can also buy expertise, and logistically they're as good as anybody in the world. So I think that they probably give a lot of that expertise away for free. And now we're talking Indigenous engagement and the expertise of companies like Cameco and the Saskatoon Tribal Council. There's lots of companies, lots of communities that could use the expertise that we have. So we have satisfied ourselves historically of being happy to fill up a rail car with stuff and ship it out. Now we've got to do stuff where we don't have to rely on a rail car. We do it through a click of a mouse, or we fly to their community, or we do it over a Zoom call. There's lots of money in the service sector in the world. We're not getting our fair share.
Keith, did you want to add anything to that?
Well, yeah, I guess maybe just a little bit in terms of the background too. Like when you think about it, Saskatchewan, based in the middle of one of the largest continents on Earth, and we have these products that need to get somewhere, and like there's no seaport close to us, and the rail that we have is thousands of miles to the closest seaport, and intermodal transportation that's become, the CCAN. Has become the norm for any export business now. It's you think about the logistics, like Steve said, and a company like Canpotex that's taken a product like potash and sold for the largest potash producing companies around the world, and it's mind-boggling when you think about it. And so absolutely, there's been a lot of thought given to that. And you look at like even BHP, where they're looking at setting up their own terminal. Like there's all kinds of expertise that's here in Saskatchewan that can be leveraged into export opportunities.
Awesome. So I have one more question, and then we'll take questions from the audience. I see we have a couple of questions from the audience already on my screen there, but if anybody would like to ask a question of the panel, just type it in the question and answer box there, and we'll get to it right away. But my last question is, once the vaccine for COVID-19 is out there and it's readily available, maybe like 50, 60, 70% of people have been vaccinated, what industries will bounce back the quickest? And maybe I should be asking, what industries will take longer to bounce back, and how can we help those industries? Maybe I'll just throw it out to all three of you to answer. See if you have something different to say. Steve, you're unmuted, so you can go first.
Sure. From a timing perspective, the ones that are going to bounce back quickest are Saskatchewan tourism destinations. People want to get out of their house. As Keith said, there's people who haven't left since March. They're going to get out. They want to travel. They want to feel safe doing it. So they're going to be out first. So people that get to go to Waskesiu, Cypress Hills, wherever, they're going to be full this summer. Campgrounds, of course. The other group that will take some time to get back is the convention hotels, because that's a longer turnaround. Those people come from elsewhere. It's going to take some time. We will be some regional meetings where we from Regina will go to Saskatoon for a day or two, but generally it's going to be these. I think also you'll see some of the ones who have done well over the time and have built their business, not sustained it, will start to really flower once summer hits. And I say summer because that's when most people will have, clearly by September, we'll have most people immunized. And throughout the summer, people naturally feel better. Our retail sector goes up over the summer. So we're going to have a lot of people out moving about, feeling more comfortable, hopefully still in a safe manner. But that's who's going to go. The ones who move fast through the darker days, like we're seeing now, and the ones who are selling an outside tourism sort of product.
Jackie, do you want to go next?
Oh, sure. Yeah, I would absolutely agree with everything Steve just said. And I think the industries, or let's talk individual businesses that'll bounce back quicker, are the ones who have really taken a look at the customer trends, that have a strong online presence, that understand what their customers want, and they are willing to do what they need to do to get that to their customers. I think entertainment, people are just going to want to be getting out of their house and doing something different. So I think there's so much opportunity for outdoor concerts this summer, outdoor events. I believe the same as Steve, it'll be a lot of local travel and a lot of people going to see family, whether that be, within our province or outside of the province. There's a lot of people who haven't seen their families for a long time. And I think that will be first and foremost for a lot of people when we can start moving around.
Keith, anything else to add?
Well, just maybe a little bit further to Jackie's point in that, business isn't going to return to business as usual as what we knew it before. And so those that adapted into the new reality and keep that incorporated into their business plan moving forward, they're going to be the ones that are actually going to be, able to develop and continue to grow into the future. And those that are looking to go back to the ways of the old ways, I guess what we have to do is help educate them to the new reality and getting that e-commerce going, building up their reputation and online presence and all these things that will definitely help them in the long run. The sooner they get on board with that, the better off they'll be. So I think that's the big thing. And then the other thing, obviously, just to keep on, like everybody's got their buy local campaigns going on, and that's very, very important. And it doesn't just necessarily stop at the restaurants and the retail shops and so on. Like there's all sorts of local service providers, construction companies, architects, for instance, professional services that can be utilized and should be utilized on a local basis for sure.
Yeah, the buy local campaign, I think lots of us tried to buy local as much as we could in the past, but it's just become so important for keeping the money in our communities. We have some questions now from the audience. So you guys, this is going to be a little bit of trial by fire for you because we haven't talked about it ahead of time. But I'll just kind of go through them in the order that we got them. But Faye asks, what has surprised you the most in business during this pandemic? What's the biggest surprise about business in the pandemic? Does anyone want to take that first?
Actually, I will. So there have been lots of entrepreneurs in our community taking advantage or seeing the trend towards local shopping. And we have a very small downtown here, but since October, I think we've had 3 or more businesses open downtown. And so I think they saw this as an opportunity that people are thinking local, shopping local, the support is very local, and I'm just going to give it a shot. So that really surprised me for the amount of businesses that decided to open up during a pandemic.
That's cool. And in our building here, I'll give a plug. There's a new cafe that opened. We're not affiliated with it. It just opened. They opened maybe about 5 weeks ago. And opening a restaurant in the middle of a pandemic seemed like a tough thing to do, but they're doing okay. Steve?
The first thing that surprised me was how well behaved and how smoothly we all went home and businesses closed down. This was a shocker to everybody. Nobody knew exactly how long. Nobody expected in March we'd still be having this conversation on a lockdown in December. That was the first thing. The other one is what we refer to as the COVID onion. And every week, there's something else in all 3 of our worlds. We go, oh, wow, we haven't had to deal with that before. One of them was insurance. We've had many companies, rural hotels, restaurants, some real estate. They've had huge challenges getting insurance. So message to all of you there, don't wait till your renewal comes in. Talk to your broker early, making sure you've got your coverage. Then I think the other one is the resilience that we've seen, the kind of thing that you've referenced, businesses opening, businesses expanding. I should never be shocked at human resilience. And yet sometimes it's still surprising to say, how cool is that they're doing these things, how creative they can be. It's not surprising. I've been in this seat for a long time, but it's engaging, I guess, or it's a positive thing to see how businesses have said, yep, I got kicked, but now I'm down. Now I'm not staying down, rather I'm up again, and away I go. And they carry on, and quite successfully. Those are the folks who are going to do very well as we come out of this.
Keith, did anything surprise you?
Well, to Steve's point about the resiliency was absolutely fantastic to see, like the way that businesses transformed. I'm not going to use the word that we all have in our mind, but they were able to, like I think about the distilleries that started almost immediately producing hand sanitizer when there's a hand sanitizer shortage. And then the benevolence that occurred as a result of that, like there were companies that had too much produced, and so they just gave it away to First Nations and other perhaps more challenging or underprivileged situations. And it was, and I guess that speaks to kind of the Saskatchewan spirit, if you will. Like I was really impressed to see how like, let's face it, things have become so divisive in our society and in our communities of late, and not that it's not still there, because believe me, it is, but way too much. But there was a real spirit of collaboration and like that competitiveness that I spoke of earlier with business. It kind of fell down a little bit, and not to say I'm not a competitive person, I am, and appreciate the good that comes with good competition. But there was, like I said, that sort of just chill that just sort of took over the province, where it's like, oh yeah, well, we don't have the buns this week, so we'll put it on bread. That's okay. That was manageable for everybody, right? Like you just managed. You did what you could, and everybody was, like I said, just chill about it. So that was a cool thing, and it's still around, but I'm hoping that we'll come out of this more resilient, stronger, and able to bounce back even quicker. And I think that we will. I think the province is well positioned to do good things in the future.
I think one of my fondest memories, or if you can have a fond memory of COVID, it was the first weekend. So it was about like March 24th or 25th. It was a Saturday morning, about 9 o'clock. I went for a walk. And this is back when you walked and someone was walking towards you, and one guy went to the other side of the street, because we didn't know what was going on. I'm walking down the street, and this guy who's about 70 years old comes walking towards me. He's got 4 cases of beer under his arms. And so I kind of yelled across the street, like, you got your supplies? He goes, they're going to make hand sanitizer instead of beer. I got to stock up right now. And that was like the reason that this guy wanted to carry all his beer, but he could barely carry them. It was so cute and funny. We got a couple more questions. And if you have more, if anybody else has other questions, just please let me know. I think we got about 2 minutes left. I'm getting a 2-minute warning here. We'll try to get through these real quick. Dallas asks, what businesses that prospered through the pandemic do you feel will see a downturn? Is there any businesses that will kind of go down as we come out of the pandemic? Does anybody want to take that?
Yeah, I don't think any will in a significant way. I mean, the courier companies are going to be less busy, but it won't be a downturn. It'll just be a conversion, unless we get real clever and start shipping, instead of products coming to our front doors, it goes from our front doors to the world, because our entrepreneurs are getting smarter and shipping that way. Grocery stores may see a difference, but still people have to eat the same 3 meals a day. Some of us 4 meals a day. So I don't think we'll see many. The only ones that will suffer, and I'll say this very clearly, and I say this to all audiences I get a chance to, anybody with a set of ears, the businesses that are going to suffer afterwards are the ones that are not digitally present. And that doesn't mean a $1 million website. It means that they don't go to Google and make sure Google tells the world that they're open. It means those people that don't have a social media presence. It means those that don't care about the internet and the way that their customers do. So that's the ones that are going to suffer. Ryan, I know we're running out of time. I just want to say, if Marie Brooke is online, let me tell you, your daughter is brilliant. Merry Christmas.
Cool. I'll just ask the last question, and I'll get Keith and Jackie to handle this one. This is from Karen. Do you think trust in the marketplace has changed? And she asked for consumers and for business, up or down. So has trust in the marketplace changed for anybody because of the pandemic?
Yes.
Jackie?
Yeah, I think it has. I think that was one of the first things people looked for. Trust, I would equate to safety, and to service delivery, and to just being honest as well. I think that's a huge thing that came out of this. Exactly what Steve and Keith were saying is, if you couldn't get something, instead of making false promises, you needed to point blank say, we can't get that. here's what we can get, here's what maybe you could use as an alternative. So building of that trust, that's going to take those businesses very far moving forward, because you're going to remember that. You're going to remember during the pandemic, who did I rely on and who could I trust? And those businesses are going to really keep those relationships moving forward. And ultimately, that's what any business is, it's relationships.
Awesome. Keith, do you want to add anything to that?
Yeah, just quickly, the buy local thing has been so heartwarming from a business perspective, because for a long time preceding this, business was oftentimes perceived as the bad guy, and actually we're the ones that are providing the goods and services and the essential services that are required. And it's nice to see that businesses are not painted as the bad guys all the time, and that there's an appreciation and trust factor there. So yeah, thank you.
Excellent. So I know we're out of time now, and I just want to thank our panel, Jackie, Steve, and Keith, for joining us today. It's been totally awesome. Like I learned a lot, and I've already talked to you guys a couple times the last few weeks. So that's been great. So thanks a lot for coming.